So Manchester United, I told you, no Alexander Isak because he's too expensive, but Man United in the recent hours had a direct contact with Aston Villa. So there was a club-to-club conversation. Man United asked about the situation of Ollie Watkins. The answer from Aston Villa is that they want to keep the player, so Aston Villa don't want to negotiate. It has to be a very good proposal to change the story. But Aston Villa, as of today, insists on their intention to keep Ollie Watkins and not to negotiate. So let's see if Man United will decide to go big for him and try to tempt Aston Villa and to tempt the player, or if Man United will move on different targets. But Ollie Watkins remains one of the names on the list, and Man United made contact for Aston Villa to be informed on the situation. And then Man United also asked to Aston Villa the opportunity to sign Emi Martinez and Libu as a goalkeeper on loan deal. Aston Villa said no chance. So Aston Villa have no intention to let Emi Martinez go on loan. That was very clear after the meeting. It's also important to say that Man United still have to decide whether they want to go for an experienced goalkeeper like Dibu Martinez, also with Dibu being very keen on a move to Man United, as I told you, or if they want to go for a young goalkeeper. And in that case, Lammens from Royal Antwerp remains the name. A player really appreciated by Man United, scouted for a long time, with the player also keen on a move. So that remains the way. Young goalkeeper, old goalkeeper, experienced, because old is not a nice word for one of the best in the world, if not the best, like Dibu Martinez. So for sure, Manchester United are working on the goalkeeper. And remember the priorities. This meeting with Aston Villa is confirming to us the two priorities: the striker and the goalkeeper. At the moment, no green light on loan for Emi Martinez, no green light for Ollie Watkins, with Villa intention to keep him, but to show how Man United are working on these two possibilities, on these two positions. Newcastle are going big, or at least are trying to go big, for Benjamin Sesko. Newcastle are on it. Newcastle, from what I understand, I can add this detail tonight, are prepared to make a proposal to the player and to present their project to the player. Newcastle really want to try to bring Benjamin Sesko. That will be massive. It's not easy because, as I mentioned in the previous video, there is this kind of gentleman agreement between Sesko and Leipzig. He can leave the club for a special club, and the special word is decided by Sesko. So only if Sesko goes to Leipzig and says, okay, for me this club could be okay, in that case, the price tag can be 70-80 million euros range, plus 5-10 million euros add-ons. Something around that, as a gentleman agreement with Leipzig. Newcastle are informed about that, and Newcastle now want to speak to those close to the player and present their project. So Newcastle are going big on Sesko. Why? Because they know Alexander Isak is pushing to leave the club this summer. Liverpool are there, guys. Liverpool are the club working on a deal for Alexander Isak. So Liverpool are on it. Liverpool spoke several times with those close to the player. Liverpool remain interested even after signing Google Piqué. So Liverpool are on it for Alexander Isak. Then, as I mentioned today, it's going to be important to clarify the Luis Diaz situation as soon as possible. It's not only a technical point, it's also a financial point. To raise some money and then can reinvest also on Alexander Isak. But Liverpool are ready. Liverpool want to go big. Liverpool believe that if Newcastle will open the doors to this opportunity, they can be ready to really try to sign Alexander Isak. As I mentioned today, I'm not aware of Al Hilal pushing in this moment. From what I heard, it's not something really concrete now. In case it will become, I will let you know. But as of today, I have to inform you of what I know, and what I know is that at the moment it's not something concrete. And also important to say that for Alexander Isak, Man United are not part of the conversations. Man United want to sign a top striker, but Isak is too expensive, so Man United are not working on this deal. And also Chelsea, there was some rumor today after the story of Alexander Isak exploring a move away from Newcastle. No, Chelsea are not part of the conversation, not interested. They are very happy with the strikers they sign and the strikers they have, so they are not working on a deal to sign Alexander Isak. They wanted him 1 year ago. 1 year ago was a possibility for Chelsea to try. Now is not the case.
Well, if Isak does leave, Newcastle are interested in signing the RB Leipzig striker, Benjamin Sesko. Now, they've explored the conditions of a deal for the 22-year-old, and it's our understanding that Sesko's camp turned down a proposal from a Saudi Pro League club this week.
Fresh contact over Aston Villa for Ollie Watkins. They've identified Watkins as a target in their search for a new number 9, but any move is likely to depend on selling players first. Højlund potentially could be on his way out. Villa reportedly value him at around 60 million, and he scored 16 goals in 38 games last season. I know this is a sore subject for you, Mr. Gbonloho,
Not at all,
but
mate.
it's a real subject as well. This is a real thing.
Of course, but I've already seen on social media Aston Villa says No.
What does that mean? Newcastle said no.
Yeah, but I'll just look at this deal and what Aston Villa would value him at. He's 13 December. And I don't think Manchester United are going to want to pay what Aston Villa are asking.
Which is what, 60?
60.
Yeah.
Like, and then maybe we have a chat. But I also look at that from an Aston Villa point of view and like, yes, PSR and all these things that you have to think about now with players. But Watkins, who are you going to replace him with?
Villa.
That's what I'm saying. If
Mateta?
Villa, no,
potentially?
not as good as Watkins. Mateta, very good player. You want to add him? Aston Villa have
more
lost.
Goals than Watkins last season.
Aston Villa have lost. How many seasons has he done it?
Yeah, for real, yeah.
Look at Watkins, for instance. 2000 to 2021, first season in the Premier League, 14 Premier League goals in 37. Season afterwards, 11 in 35. Season afterwards, 15 in 37. Season after that, 19 in 37. Last season, 16 in 38. So you know what you're getting.
Is he
with
as
Watkins.
clinical as he needs to be?
Not at all.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay for someone that's as clinical as needed to be, you're talking over 100 million.
The only reason I say this is because sometimes you listen to or the way Unai Emery talks about him, or even just the way in which he puts him on the bench sometimes for big games, and you're thinking, does Unai Emery look at him as the main man for Villa?
I think he does, but there's certain games where these coaches now, mate, the detail they go into is there's a reason why, okay, maybe Rashford was right for this, or Duran was right for this, but Watkins was right for this game. Every game is a different team that he looks at. It might be two changes, one change. You know what I mean? One game McGinn might play, one game Ramsey might play here, and you mix them around. But I just think any Aston Villa fan that feels that Watkins should leave needs to have a look in the mirror, give their head a wobble, because you don't find someone is going to score you them Premier League goals every season, and he's guaranteed, never really gets injured, touch wood.
Yeah.
So for me, like, who are you going to go
Never an
replace
issue
him
outside
with?
as
Exactly.
well, nothing off the pitch.
Works hard.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate bit here with you,
Yep.
because you said, when I asked, would Liverpool put a bid in for Alexander Isak, you said it's pretty much they're told to put a bid in, right? Because Alexander Isak wants to go, maybe. What about Ollie Watkins here? Could his agent be fielding United and Arsenal offers previous because he's asked to leave?
I think there probably would have been a part of Watkins last season that would have been fuming. And I've seen players, and I've heard about players, when you big games are getting missed, getting put on the bench in the Champions League, you're going to have a phone call to your agent. I'm not happy, that's it, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, I think you look at Aston Villa, he's loved by the fans. Do you know what I mean? He plays a great amount of football for a big football club. Do you look at Manchester United next season and say, by the time that project is where it needs to be, competing for top four, he could be 33.
But does he not get excited by Mateus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo? Bruno Fernandes has said he's committing himself to United. Does he not look at that and think, okay, this is an exciting project to be part of?
I don't think so, mate. I do look at Cunha and then Mbeumo. What have they come out and says? Manchester United fans when they're a kid.
Yeah.
Watkins, Arsenal fan.
None of them are talking about the projects,
Exactly.
are they? Yeah.
Arsenal fan as a kid. And also the wages help as well, what they're getting paid.
time.
Villa will be paying him handsomely, Ollie Watkins. I just see it as a move backwards, to be honest.
Do you think
Aston Villa have told Manchester United that forward Ollie Watkins is not for sale. United are targeting a new number 9 this summer as a key part of Ruben Amorim's rebuilding plans, with proven Premier League experience understood to be a priority. Watkins, the England international, has emerged as a strong option, with United making an inquiry over his availability. Villa, however, have no plans to part with the 29-year-old this summer, and insist he is not for sale at any price. Watkins was a target for Arsenal in the January transfer window, but Villa turned down an offer, instead opting to sell Ihan Duran to Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr for $65 million. Watkins, who Villa signed for $33 million from Brentford in 2020, is the second Villa player to attract interest from United since the end of last season, with goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez also under consideration. United made a surprise loan offer for the Argentine World Cup winner, which was instantly rejected by Villa. While Martinez's future remains uncertain, Villa will only consider letting him go if a club meets their valuation. That price is understood to be around the $40 million mark. Martinez has flown out with the Villa squad to the United States for their preseason tour.
There was talk that they were in for Ekitike. He's going to Liverpool. From the ones that are left, Sam, there's talks Benjamin Sesko, Nicholas Jackson's been mentioned, Ollie Watkins. Apologies, to bring him into it. But do you think that Manchester United will push for a striker? I saw someone suggesting just play Cunha on as the 9. What are your thoughts? I mean, they've got a couple there, haven't they, as well already? Young players who can play there.
Yeah, I mean, don't buy Cunha for £62.5 million and then just shove him up front when he's barely played there in the last year and has clearly excelled as a kind of floating 10, which United literally used 2 of. So I'm pleased to see that they're up for a 9. I wondered if they'd leave it and think with the support of Mbeumo and Cunha and Bruno Fernandes and Amad Diallo fit again, with all those 4 scoring goals, would the burden on the striker become a little less and would they thrive as a result? It looks like they're not willing to take that risk, and it looks like they are at least going to try. I'll ask the question on a few of these players. So Sesko, expensive, young, from abroad. Ultimately, I have no issue with that in a vacuum, but the last couple that United have tried really haven't worked out, and I think they should probably look at something a little bit safer. So your low-risk, low-cost option here is probably Ollie Watkins, isn't he? But of course, he's significantly older. He's 7 years older than Sesko and 5 years older than Nicholas Jackson. So it's no long-term solution. That can be okay if you're just trying to, get a shot in the arm, which is seemingly what they're doing here with Mbeumo and Cunha. But Nicholas Jackson, I mean, Darmish, you may correct me, the price I've seen reported in terms of Chelsea's asking price, somewhere between 80 and 100 million.
Yeah, we're always talking about how the market is set. So Chelsea are looking at Ekitike. Well, if he's £69 million basic plus £10 million in add-ons, well, so is Nicholas Jackson. And you know what? Chelsea had every right to say that because Nicholas Jackson has got Premier League experience. He's scored goals in the Premier League. Ekitike hasn't. So why shouldn't Chelsea value the player in that way? What I would say, the priority for Manchester United right now, once they got the Mbeumo deal done, is sales. They need to get sales to be able to fund further investment in this transfer window.
Any sales close? Finally, Doms?
Well, I mean, Rashford one is that's one down of the 5. The other 4 we're talking about: Alejandro Garnacho, Jadon Sancho, Tyrell Malacia, and Anthony. There's interest in all of them. Juventus still pursuing a deal for Jadon Sancho, but rather like Manchester United's pursuit of a striker, Juventus are in that position where now that they've effectively signed Francisco Conceição, to bring in someone like Sancho, they would have to make sales. They're working on sales of Timothy Weah to Marseille, and Nico Gonzalez as well is of interest to Atletico Madrid, I think. So they're trying to make these sales to be able to get this Sancho deal done. I don't think with regard to Sancho, the biggest issue is going to be the transfer fee, because I think they'll be able to negotiate that with United. Simply because if you look at the Rashford option price, United have come down to £26 million. I think they were asking £25 million of Chelsea when they had an obligation to buy. It probably won't go as high as that if Juventus are coming in for someone like Sancho, because it feels like United have made the decision behind the scenes. If we take the hit on certain players, we're just going to have to do it, because there's no way for us to move forward unless we have got these players out and I've got the players that I want in the club. So Sancho and Juventus, that one is live. We do know Real Betis still want Anthony. There is other interest in him from a number of other clubs, but he wants to go to Betis. Of course, after last season's performance, Betis are desperate to sign him. Again, the finances could prove to be an issue. Is it going to be another loan? Would United insist that that loan comes with an obligation? So that's another issue there. Garnacho, we think, wants to stay in the Premier League. Chelsea are definitely interested in Garnacho, and I think Malacia will get a move somewhere. I mean, it didn't work out for him as he would have liked at PSV last season, but there should be a couple of suitors for Tyrell Malacia as well. So I'm not saying there's a confidence that United won't have these 5 players come the end of this transfer window, but I think there's a hope that they'll be able to do some sort of deals for all 5 before the window closes.
Brian and Mbeumo, and that's all been done. £71 million. Some suggestion again, as football fans like to talk, that they've maybe overpaid a bit there, but I mean, Sam's nodding his head. Sam, you clearly are one of those people. What are you thinking?
I think this is a bit of an overpay. Yeah.
How much?
£15 million,
Okay.
something like that. He's got a year left on his deal, and they spent
Plus a year. Plus a year.
What, an option?
Yeah.
Was it a club option or a player option?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it applies to Wissa as well. Like, I don't know the exact dynamic of those, but yeah, it just doesn't look quite right. I mean, it's on the very top end of the bracket that we keep mentioning, with all these Premier League forwards and wingers moving around. United have ended up towards the top end of that bracket on Cunha and Mbeumo for players who are in their mid-20s, and you've got really young 20s, like 21, 22-year-olds and 20-year-olds moving for like 50. So that's why I kind of put him at about a £15 million overpay, that the potential contract situation and just the age compared to like Madueke and Gittins and all those guys. There's no doubt that Mbeumo's a really good player, but
vamos treinar pouco a pronúncia nativa. Quando os nativos vão falar, por exemplo, esta.
He and Cunha were two of the three biggest XG overperformers last season. They overperformed in front of goal at a rate that Messi and Ronaldo would struggle to over the course of a campaign, or over a course of a career. So something might give in that area. And you've got to be wary of non-penalty goals against goals scored as well. Mbeumo scored 5 penalties. I don't think he's going to be allowed to have penalties if Bruno Fernandes is on the pitch. So when people keep pointing to him and going, well, he scored 20 goals, I'm like, sure. But at United, that would have been 15. So already you're 25% down in your tally. So that's why I think it's ended up probably a little bit too inflated. Just my honest thoughts.
One thing I would say is that there was talk that the goalposts were being moved constantly with Bryan Mbeumo. But one thing that United were impressed by was the fact that he only wanted to go to Man United. We do know that Tottenham and Newcastle were interested. They could offer Champions League football. Yes, we can talk about potential wages that were on offer, but I think United were really encouraged by the fact that Mbeumo's desire from the moment that United came in was only to join Man United. And now, when I mentioned goalposts being moved, I mean, there's been, denials on all sides, I think, with regard to how this fee, how they came to this fee. But there was at one point, I heard one source telling me that, Brentford might have wanted to go as high as £77 million, and they might have wanted to get 70 million guaranteed. What United will have done here, if you look at the Cunha deal, it was £62.5 million paid in 3 instalments. So you're looking at around £20 million per instalment. Now, what United have done, which we can't often talk about, is sometimes clubs will find it more beneficial to actually pay a bit more money in return for more favourable payment terms, simply because of how the profit and sustainability rules are set. Now, this £65 million that is guaranteed to Brentford is actually going to be paid over 4 instalments. So if you imagine that there were equal instalments, you're looking at £16 million per instalment that Manchester United would have to pay Brentford. That compared to, for example, would they rather do that or pay £5 million less over 3 instalments? You got to weigh it up. That's how clubs are thinking now with these PSR and these financial fair play rules. So Manchester United will feel that they've got a good deal. Brentford will feel that they've got a good deal. Whatever happens, Manchester United desperately wanted to bring in Bryan Mbeumo. They've got him.
Yeah. Deal done.
Manchester United succeeded in their aim of bolstering Ruben Amorim's squad with 2 key signings before they head to the United States for a pre-season tour on Tuesday. Matheus Cunha arrived early in the summer market, and despite Liam Delap favouring a switch to Chelsea, Bryan Mbeumo was another primary target United landed before their 2025-26 season kicks off. In the meantime, funds have been raised via sell-on clauses in the moves of Alvaro Carreras, Anthony Elanga and Maxi Odile, while Marcus Rashford's loan will also generate significant savings. Work to shift Anthony, Tyrell Malaysia and Jadon Sancho is continuing, which would give them even more room to manoeuvre financially and in squad space. The structure and payment terms of United's deals help, too. United underwent a drastic cost-cutting process, which included a wave of redundancies, and that was partially aimed at investing as many resources as possible into the football side of their operation. Attention turns to strengthening the squad further, and the main positions of focus are in attack, defensive midfield and goalkeeper. United tried to enter the race for Hugo Ekitike last week, but the Eintracht Frankfurt attacker had committed to Liverpool. They then inquired to Sporting CP about Victor Gyökeres, but the striker has made clear he is interested only in joining Arsenal. Benjamin Sesko, Ollie Watkins and Nicholas Jackson are names that feature on recruitment lists at many leading clubs, and each has recently been linked to United. Talks have taken place about that trio, which is normal, but they are not being actively pursued due to the costs. That can change as the window progresses, especially if their prices come down. However, United are placing greater emphasis on alternatives. Another number 6 deep-lying midfielder is on the Old Trafford agenda. If a keeper is acquired, it does not necessarily mean Andre Onana will depart.
Tá vendo só? A culpa é do consignado.